Imagine for a moment that the quality of your entire life came down to one thing: how you perceive the world around you, not the events themselves, but the meaning your mind assigns to them. To the ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, this idea was the very root of human suffering or human flourishing. What we see, and the stories we tell ourselves about what we see, make the difference between a life of peace and a life of struggle. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, had a revolutionary approach to the challenges of life. In his private journals, which we now know as his meditations, he reminds himself again and again of one central insight: the world is neither good nor bad, it simply is. It's our perceptions and judgments that trouble us, not the events themselves. You have power over your mind, not outside events, Marcus wrote. Realize this, and you will find strength. The discipline of perception, then, became his most important practice. He trained himself to strip away all subjective labels like good or bad or unfair from the events of life and replace them with sheer objectivity. When someone insulted him, he told himself, "If any man despises me, that is his problem. My only concern is not doing or saying anything deserving of contempt." When a close friend and ally betrayed him and declared war on Rome, he observed the situation with dispassionate clarity. A branch cut away from its neighbor branch cannot but be cut away from the whole tree. So too, a man separates himself from his neighbor when he hates him and turns away from him, and he does not know that he has at the same time cut himself off from the whole social community. Marcus realized that every external event was an opportunity to practice this inner discipline, to perceive clearly, to withhold rash judgment, and to retain his peace of mind. When court life in Rome became too busy and distracting, he reminded himself, "No longer let yourself be pulled in all directions, but in everything you do, follow inwardly and outwardly the individual path assigned to you." In the most striking passages of Meditations, Marcus breaks down his own life with radical objectivity. He observes his own titles and accomplishments as if from a vast distance. Asia and Europe, distant recesses of the universe. The ocean, a drop of water. Mount Athos, a molehill. The present moment is the smallest point in eternity. All things are petty, easily changed, vanishing. Seeing clearly, for Marcus, meant noticing his own smallness in the cosmic order. It meant not overvaluing incidental things, including his own public image. Soon you'll be ashes or bones, a mere name at most. And even that is just a sound, an echo. The things we want in life are empty, stale, and trivial. Dogs snarling at each other, quarreling children, laughing and then bursting into tears a moment later. With searing honesty, he reminds himself that even his own body is fleeting and insignificant in the grand scheme. Bear in mind that your life breath is but a puff of wind, that sight and the scene are vanishing dreams, that your flesh is but food for worms, that worldly eminence is but oblivion. This unflinching view of reality, including his own reality, wasn't meant to cultivate despair or resignation. Instead, it freed Marcus from unrealistic expectations, both of others and of his own place in the world. Not even an emperor could escape the basic, naked facts of human existence. And once he accepted those facts, he found a deep and unshakable tranquility. For Marcus, this practice of objective perception was more than just a psychological skill. It was a form of spiritual training, a way to harmonize his mind with universal reason. All things are woven together, and the common bond is sacred, he wrote, and hardly anything is alien to anything else, for they have been arranged together in their places, and together make the same ordered universe. When we align our perceptions with reality, Marcus believed, we begin to glimpse this sacred order. We see that even the difficult and painful parts of life have a place in the whole. What stands in the way becomes the way, he reminded himself. Perception, then, isn't just about what we see. It's about how we relate to the world, with openness and humility, or with resistance and resentment. In daily life, the applications are endless. Stuck in traffic, we can rage and despair, or we can accept the moment for what it is, a chance to breathe deeply and appreciate the marvel of transportation. Stricken with illness, we can bemoan our bad luck, or we can marvel at the body's ceaseless ability to heal. Rejected by a friend or lover, we can sink into self-hatred, or we can acknowledge the ever-shifting nature of human relations. The discipline of perception, in other words, is the path to resilience. It's how we find solid ground, even in a world of constant flux and disruption. And no one knew this better than Marcus. Years of civil war, betrayal, sickness, and loss taught him that sanity begins by seeing clearly. Observe constantly that all things take place by change, he wrote, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, and to make new things like them. At the deepest level, Marcus's discipline of perception is about inhabiting the present moment fully, without the distorting filters of fear or desire. It's about accepting what is, right here and now, and working wisely with that reality. Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole, he counsels. Don't try to picture everything bad that could possibly happen. Stick with the situation at hand. When we root ourselves in the present, neither regretting the past nor worrying about the future, the true wonder of existence reveals itself. The present moment, Marcus tells us, is the only thing of which a man can be deprived, if it is true that this is the only thing he has, and that a man cannot lose something he does not already possess. And so the discipline of perception comes down to this: the ability to see each moment as it is, no more and no less. Not the story of what this moment means, but the brute fact of the moment itself, in all its brevity and mystery and improbability. How often in daily life do we fixate on the stories we tell ourselves about events, rather than seeing the events themselves clearly? Consider a recent frustration or disappointment in your own life. What actually happened? In the most objective terms possible, what bare facts can be separated from your emotional reactions and interpretations? As an experiment, try Marcus's practice of writing down events in plain terms, without emotive labels or judgments. My partner forgot to take out the trash. The car battery died and needed to be replaced. My supervisor gave me constructive feedback on that project. Notice any resistance that arises, any urge to cling to familiar narratives of being wronged or inconvenienced. What happens if you let those narratives go and simply acknowledge what is? If it helps, remind yourself, as Marcus did, many of the anxieties that harass you are superfluous. Expand into an ampler region, letting your thoughts sweep over the entire universe. In the end, the discipline of perception is nothing less than a spiritual practice, a way of fulfilling our deepest nature as conscious, contemplative beings. When we observe our own lives with calm abiding, spotting all our habits of reactivity and resistance, we begin to taste the freedom that lives on the other side of the stories we tell. We start to see that inner peace is always possible, even amid outer chaos. And once this door is open, once we discover the space between event and reaction, a whole world of human potential reveals itself. For perception, as Marcus well knew, is only the beginning of philosophy. How we see determines how we act. and how we act determines the quality of our lives and the impact we have on the world. The discipline of perception, then, isn't an end in itself. It's a crucial first step in attuning ourselves to a deeper order, the order that Marcus called nature. When we align our mind with nature, seeing clearly and acting ethically, we fulfill our destiny as rational, responsible beings. But what exactly is this nature that we're meant to align with? And how do we translate clarity of perception into clarity of purpose? These are the questions that animate the next stage of Marcus's timeless philosophy, and the questions that each of us must grapple with if philosophy is to be a way of life. As we'll see in our next exploration, the discipline of perception is the foundation. But the path of the Procopton, the Stoic student, is only just beginning.